So last week I made a video on how to get one Godox flash to fire another flash without using a trigger. And after I finished that video, I had all this set up. So I said, I might as well practice some portrait photography. And if you follow me on Instagram or my community posts on YouTube, you may have seen some of the images I've made this week. And I got a lot of great feedback on that, so I appreciate that. But some of you had asked me, how did I take those images? Can you show me your lighting setup, etc.? So I thought I'd go ahead before I take everything down to make another quick video on how I created those images, and we'll do something also a little bit different today. All right, now let me walk you through this hodgepodge of gear that I have. I'm going to be shooting with the M5 Mark III and 14-42 kit lens. I have the Godox X-Pro II Trigger here. Over here I have the Godox V1 with the umbrella light stand. Here's another Godox V1 umbrella light stand. Up here I have an 8200 inside of a 22-inch octabox. And then back here I have another 8200 Pro with a 5-inch bowl on the front on its light stand. And then finally I have the Godox TT600 over here on another cheap light stand. I got some of these light stands at Goodwill for like 10 bucks. But some of the lighting I know is a little bit expensive, but really you don't need the lighting that I have here because, I have to use some of this lighting professionally for my architectural work. So I buy the higher end gear, but I saw a terrific kit. It's a Godox TT685. You can get 3 of those with a trigger for like 250 bucks. And then you add in the light stands and umbrellas and maybe a backdrop. That's maybe another 150 to 200. So for less than $500, you can get an awesome studio portrait setup. And I think that $500 is much better spent on a lighting setup like this rather than say buying a pro lens or a portrait lens. You're going to get much more mileage out of lighting than you will out of a lens. And as you'll see today, I think this kit lens does a great job. All right, so I've already done a full reset on the camera and the trigger, so I'm going to walk you through from scratch all of the different settings. And all of the flashes I have 5 of them. They're all set to channel 9 in receiver mode, and they each have their own group letter, so I can turn them off on or off individually and adjust the power individually via the trigger. So this trigger can control up to 5 groups or 5 flashes. It can go up to 16 groups if you want, but by default it's set up for 5. All right, so the first thing I have to do on this trigger is put it into channel 9. So let's go into the menu and click OK here on the wireless icon, and then click on channel, and then we're going to rotate this down to channel 9. And then we're not going to mess with ID scan or distance. All of these on the default settings are fine. I'm going to set the TCM here to on camera flash because, and I'll explain this a little bit later, but just keep note that this on camera flash icon, this represents the 80-100, 80-200, 300, 400, 600, 1200, because Godox offers a lot of different lightings. And basically what TCM does is calculates the manual exposure settings from a TTL flash. So I'll show you how that works. That'll help you get started with the correct exposure because we're going to be doing everything in full manual. Let's go into the camera. All right, now the default setting is 1/250 to f5.6, and that should be perfectly fine for this indoor studio type situation. But basically I want to have settings that it's going to crush all of the ambient light or underexpose it enough so that I get a black picture. So let's just take a test shot here. And yeah, so all the ambient light has been crushed because it's just way underexposed. And the only light that's going to come into the frame now is whatever I add using flash. Let's go into the super control panel. And what I want to do is change the ISO to 200. The white balance, we're going to change this to a custom. Because, the matrix stuff is kind of a greenish blue type color. So we're going to make some adjustments to the white balance to get that effect. And then for profile, we're going to do muted. And then I'm just going to crank up the sharpness and contrast. Use a low key gradation to get more punch. And then we're going to desaturate just a little bit more. SAF with eye detect is fine. Focus point doesn't matter because we have face detect turned on. The key thing here is you want to make sure you're in mechanical shutter mode so that when you fire the camera, the flashes will fire because generally speaking, you can't use electronic shutter with flash. And then let me see if there's anything else in here. I can turn off image stabilization because we're on a tripod. And I think I'll do 1:1 framing or aspect ratio. And then we're also going to make sure we shoot in RAW plus JPEG. I may have to do a tiny bit of post-processing, but I'm going to get as much as I can right in camera. All right, now let's go into the menu. And we're going to go down here to the custom menu. And then we're going to go down to the flash menu, F. And we're going to go down here to white balance. And I don't want it to be on auto white balance. I'm going to turn this off. Because again, we're going to be using a custom white balance for this kind of a greenish bluish tint. All right, now I'm going to use the one-touch white balance feature to set the white balance in the camera. And I need to take a couple of things into consideration. Is one, I have to fire the flash when I'm taking the white balance reading. And two, I want to kind of shift the white balance to the green to kind of get that Matrix movie kind of color scheme. So to do that, rather than taking a picture of, say, this gray backdrop, which will work like a pseudo gray card for white balance, I'm going to shoot that with the flash, but I'm going to introduce a little bit of red into it so that the white balance gets shifted green, the opposite of red. And to do that, I'm just going to use this sort of burgundy pillow and introduce this into the frame while I'm taking the white balance reading using the one-touch white balance feature. And that should shift it a little bit of green, and then we'll take a test shot to see if it actually did that. So let's go into the Super Control panel and click on the white balance. And to activate one touch, we just hit the info button on the back of the camera. And then I need to set the trigger to fire in TTL mode so that I get enough light to set the white balance, and the white balance sets with the flash firing. All I do is I just go into Group A, which is my key light, and then change this to TTL and click Set. All right, now we're ready to take a picture. And I'm just going to push this red pillow into the scene a little bit, right near the flash, if I can, and take a picture. And then we'll say yes. All right, now let's take a test shot with me in it and see how that looks. All right, that looks really good. Now, if you're shooting in RAW, you can always post-process and set the white balance to whatever you want. And I may do that later, but for now, I want to get everything as close as I can in camera so I get a feel for how the image is going to look in the final edit. All right, now going back to the trigger, if you remember, I set the TCM mode to on-camera flash, which is the setting that you would use for the Godox V1, which in this case over here is my key light that I use to set the white balance. And I fired this in TTL mode. But however, since I set the TCM for the V1, I can now convert that TTL into a power output for that flash in manual mode. So to do that, all I have to do is go into the trigger and select Group A, and then just click the mode button. And you'll notice that it doesn't say 1/128th anymore. It now says, looks like 1/8 plus a third. So this is now in full manual mode. And if I take another test shot, I should get the same exposure as I did when I was in TTL mode. So let's just do that real quick. All right, that looks really good. Now I need to start building the shot because just one light, this is a little bit too contrasty. Like the right side of my face is too dark. And I also want to add some backlight glow to it. So now that I have the flash power set for the key light, I can start setting the other flashes manually as well. And what I want to do is I want to have sort of a glow backlight to me, and then that'll naturally create a vignette as well, which also I think looks pretty nice. So I'm just going to put this back here, right about center. All right, now I'm going to check this flash here and make sure this is on channel 9 receiver mode in Group C. Actually, I want to change it to Group B. All right, so Group B, channel 9 receiver mode. And I have this flash set about the same distance from the key light, but I want to set up a lighting ratio where this is about half as bright as that one. So I think that would be 2:1. So I'm going to set the flash power on this to half, and I'm going to set the flash power on this one to 1/128th, which should be more than enough light, but I can always brighten it up a little bit more if I need to. All right, so let's go into the trigger, and we're going to set the B flash to manual, and we're going to set it to be one stop darker. So let's get it up to 1/8 and a third, and then one stop darker would be a 16th. But I can just click 3 clicks, 1, 2, 3, and that'll give me exactly one stop darker. And then the background light for the glow, just put that into manual, and we'll turn this down to 1/128. And I can always make this brighter if I need to, but let's see how that looks. All right, not bad. Maybe just a little bit more. Let's kill it one more stop and try that. All right, now I want to make the image a little bit darker, and to do that, rather than changing all of the flash powers down, all I have to do is increase my aperture on the camera by, say, 1 stop. So I'm at f5.6 right now. If I just bump it up to f8, the overall image should be 1 stop darker. So let's go to f8 and do one more test shot. All right, now I'm going to do one more thing, and maybe you haven't seen this before, but I'm going to add the Godox TT350, and I'm going to point this directly into the lens to create sort of a lens flare on the lens on the camera. So I might take a couple of shots to get it just right the way I want it, but I'm going to go ahead and turn this one on. And this flash is on group C. So let's go into the trigger and set up group C. Put that in manual mode, and I'm going to dial this all the way down to the minimum power, 1/128th. And then I'm going to adjust this so I want it to kind of shine up and into the lens to create as much reflection as possible, bouncing around inside. So let's try that. Let's see how that looks. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to reframe the picture to just regular portrait mode instead of a square frame, so I can get a little bit more length in the shot. And I put on my trench coat and my glasses, and let's see how this comes out. All right, then one last thing is I'm going to add a timer to this. Custom timer, info. Let's give myself 5 seconds to prep, and we'll do 3 frames. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I did making it. And I was thinking for my next video, maybe showing how I did that dodge bullet image, which was basically live comp and popping the flash. But as always, there's that fine print to get it just right. But I'll be happy to do that for you. Just let me know in the comments below. And if you'd like to support what I do here, you can buy me a coffee or make a small donation. The links below, because they're greatly appreciated and they help me to continue making videos like this for you. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.